Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast has evolved over the 5+ years since it first launched. From now on, I'm going to be talking about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. And also mindset, of course, but mindset of all kinds, not just business mindset. I think. Things are changing for me, as you may have noticed if you've been following me online or listening to this podcast, so anything goes here. I hope you stay along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today, and now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 335. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today I'm going to talk about something that I've touched on in the past in my books, but not necessarily on the podcast. It's been something I've been thinking about a lot as I prepare the second editions of my business mindset books. I'm also working on a novel right now that's essentially a snapshot of my ideal lifestyle, set in a different universe in a different century, but there's so many elements of it that coincide with my kind of ideal vision and lifestyle for myself. So I recently saw a post on Reddit that asked, what does a fulfilling life look like to you? And I'll link to that in the show notes because I think everyone's answers was really interesting. So I myself have asked this question a lot in terms of what's your ideal lifestyle? But somehow hearing this worded differently in terms of what does a fulfilling life look like to you made me think about it a little bit differently. So my question to you today is, what does a fulfilling life look like to you? What does it feel like? And I hope that this episode will help you explore all the details. So what are you going to learn today? I'm going to explore why I think it's so important to ask this question. I'm going to talk about why fulfillment is so important, how to figure out what a fulfilling life looks like to you, how to get started taking steps towards this vision, and things you can do today to get started. So first of all, why is it so important to ask this question? The thing is, if we don't ask ourselves these questions like, what's my ideal lifestyle? What does a fulfilling life look like to me? We run the danger of living life on default. We run the risk of drifting through life, letting things happen to us rather than making conscious decisions to create the life that we want. I never thought about this stuff when I was younger. No one told me to ask myself these questions when I was younger. I didn't start asking these questions until like 10 years ago. So I spent a lot of time making shitty decisions for myself and getting myself in a place that was not where I wanted to be. And I've been paying a lot of attention to the kinds of questions that people ask online, partly because I find it really fascinating and partly to get kind of inspiration for podcast topics. But I've been seeing a lot of posts lately about people saying, I've got myself to this point in my life where I just think, how did I get here? Whose life am I living? And what do I do to get out of this? And that's really sad. And I know a lot of people are in that situation. I have been in that situation in the past where I think, how do I get myself out of this situation? Like, I have this whole life. How do I get out of this? Like, I don't want to be here. So hopefully you're not in that situation. And to avoid arriving at that situation, we're going to ask this question today. And if you are in that situation, I think asking yourself this question will help you get out of where you are and into a more fulfilling and happy life. So it's important to ask yourself the question, what does a fulfilling life look like to me? Because ultimately, we just want to be happy. We want to live a life that is fulfilling and happy and rewarding. So if we don't get clear on what that looks like, it's pretty difficult to create a life that feels fulfilling. So why is fulfillment so important? I mean, this is clearly not one of the basic needs in life. We need shelter, we need sustenance, we need water, but that's just survival. Fulfillment is important so that we can live happy lives, so that we're doing more than surviving. We are thriving mentally, emotionally, physically. It's living a life based on our values, the things that are important to us, doing the things that are important to us, having the experiences that are important to us. And it's something that is absolutely attainable. I mean, I think there was definitely a point in my life where I thought it was never possible, and it absolutely is. And I think there are different levels of fulfillment. As we step closer and closer to our vision of a fulfilling a life, that will change and it will expand, and we might shift along the way, and we might realize that some things that we thought would make us feel fulfilled don't, and maybe it's something else. This is a journey. But as we take those steps, life gets better and more satisfying and more fulfilling, and I'm going to say that word 1,000 times in this episode. So, how do you get clear on what fulfillment looks like to you, what it feels like to you? I think going back to some basic coaching tools like the Wheel of Life are good places to start. Those are kind of the basic categories of life. Relationships. What do fulfilling relationships look like to you? And that can be in terms of your family of origin. What does a fulfilling relationship look like with your family of origin? What do fulfilling relationships look like with your chosen family, your partner? Do you want children? Do you have children? What do fulfilling relationships look like and feel like with your children? If you don't want children, pets. Or if you want children and pets, what does that look like? What do fulfilling relationships look like in terms of family? And what about friends? What do fulfilling friendships look like? What do they feel like? Do you already have fulfilling friendships? Are your friendships in alignment with who you are today? I see a lot of posts online of people saying, is it okay for me to break up with this friendship or to let go of this friendship? I feel really bad. But I think this is really natural. As we grow and as we change, we will often have different friendships for different phases of our lives. And there will be some friendships that even if they're not as intense as they were, they might still be fulfilling. I am continue to be shocked as I kind of get back in touch with people who I haven't seen for years. Living near London is fantastic because I see lots of friends that I haven't seen in 20, 25 years that are coming through on holiday, and we get together, and it's shocking to me how many people I still love getting in touch with, people that I haven't seen since high school who are in town on business. And we go out for dinner, we go out for lunch, and it's just fantastic. And we talk for hours, and we could go on talking for hours. And it's still really fulfilling, even though we're not in touch on a regular basis. I haven't seen them in 20 plus years, but it just feels so good to see them and talk to them. So what do fulfilling friendships look like to you? There could be people that you maybe aren't in touch with all the time, but then when you do see them, it's fantastic. What does that look like to you? A lot of my closest friendships are online friendships. A couple of my really good friends don't live anywhere near me, so I don't see them that often, but we get in touch on Zoom or we get in touch on Skype, and we have Skype calls and we have a Skype cup of coffee, and it's fantastic. So do what works for you. I think for a lot of people, it would be weird to not have in real life local friendships. I have really fulfilling friendships that, I don't see that often. So think about fulfilling relationships in all aspects of your life. Career, business. What does a fulfilling career or business look like to you? What does it feel like? I feel like for the last 10 years, my business has refined and refined and refined, and it has never felt this good. I'm focusing on my writing, and it feels good. I'm so excited about my plans for 2020. I'm working with authors, and I love the way I'm working with them, and it feels good. It's just never been this good, and it's never been this fulfilling, and I'm really, really happy with it. Hobbies. How could you feel more fulfilled with your hobbies? I didn't get outdoors as much as I wanted to this year, and I have more plans to do that, in the calendar fixed for next year. So I'm taking a couple of classes, which I've mentioned, that are going to involve camping, and I'm really excited about that. And that's going to ensure that I get outside and I go camping and spend time outdoors. And I've got walks planned that I'm really excited about. They are in the calendar. I've booked my flights for my first walk next year in March, and I'm really excited about that. These are things that are really fulfilling to me. So I'm making sure to put those in my calendar. So what can you do to have fulfilling hobbies and to make sure that you get them in your calendar? Travel. I'm not really into traveling just for the sake of traveling, but I like traveling in the sense of walking long distance trails in different parts of the country. And next year, I'm actually going out of the country to do some walking. So That's how I combined travel and hobbies. But what about you? Do you like travel? How could you have a fulfilling experience in terms of travel? And if you maybe don't have the budget to travel abroad or travel very far, what can you do to kind of travel within your local area? Maybe go to a local town or village or city and explore. How can you have more fulfilling experiences in your life? And to me, life is all about experiences. I mean, I've got a lot of plans and projects and things in terms of writing and my books for next year, but I realize that I have a lot of plans for experiences that I want to have. So what are the most fulfilling experiences for you? For me, it's outdoor stuff. For me, it's walking long distance trails. For me, it's doing stuff like kickboxing, which I'm not great at, but I'm getting better at and I'm, advancing. So what experiences are fulfilling to you and how can you add more of those to your schedule? What about work-life balance? I think that's a really important part of fulfillment. I think if we've got too much work and business and not enough life, that can lead to a lot of unfulfillment, which is what happened to me in my first business. It was very heavily work. I was going to say balance, but it's not. It was like weighted towards work and not so much life. And that was really, really, really stressful and unfulfilling, and it led to burnout. So if you're in a situation where you're not experiencing work-life balance, what can you do to change that? Do you need to quit your job and find something more balanced? Are you willing to do that? What kind of work-life balance would feel fulfilling, look fulfilling? And what about financial stuff? Like, what kind of financial situation feels or looks fulfilling to you? Is it being free from debt? Is it having a certain amount in savings, investments? What kind of financial situation would you need to feel fulfilled? What about goals? What kind of goals would make you feel fulfilled if you achieved them? So for me, I've got, like I said, a ton of plans next year for books, and that's really going to ensure that I focus on my writing, which is something that makes me feel fulfilled. So I'm releasing second editions of all of my business mindset books, and that's actually going really well. Started working on the first 2 of them. Releasing a second edition of my South Downs Way book. Be working on that in the first quarter of the year. I'll be walking 2 new long distance trails next year and writing books about them. And my goal for that is not necessarily to release those 2 books next year, but at least have like a first draft done by the end of the year for both of those. So this is a really ambitious plan, and in the background, I am also working on a novel, which I mentioned in the introduction to this episode. I have no clear plans for this novel because it's the kind of thing that I've never done it before. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but it's flowing really beautifully and it feels really good. So when I'm writing it, it just feels so good to be in that world and to be writing those characters. So I don't know what's going on with that. I write when I am inspired to write, and I put it away for a couple weeks at a time, and then I'll pull it out again when I'm inspired to pull it out, and that's what I'm doing. So in terms of writing goals, that's what feels fulfilling to me. It's really ambitious. I am aware of that, and think it's doable. I've talked to you about my other plans for next year in terms of my Druid training, my walks that I've got planned. Yeah, so that's my goals. My black belt, hopefully next year. Those are kind of my big goals and projects and plans. I've got my clipboard out here with everything printed out. So I'm really, really excited about those things. I have some other small things, but those are kind of the major kind of personal goals that I have and writing goals for next year. So what goals would feel fulfilling to you? I know for the longest time, my goals were just business-based, and they were kind of boring. It was mostly like financial goals, like I want to be making X amount of money per month from this specific type of work. I don't know, I just realized that what I want are experiences, and so my goals are so experience-based. My professional goals are very writing focused, and then my experience goals are very kind of outdoorsy focused. So what's meaningful to you? Like what would feel fulfilling to you in terms of goals? And not just professional goals, but personal goals. How do you want to make a difference in the world? And how could you make a difference in the world that would feel fulfilling to you? So maybe that's working with charities in terms of donating your time or your money, or maybe you have some creative projects that you would like to take part in or complete in order to make a difference in the world. So I really feel like I'm helping people through this podcast, through my books, and that's how I choose to make a difference in the world with my creative work. Also, I do donate to charities. Occasionally, I donate to projects. And that's what my focus has been in terms of making a difference. I really do feel that my books are my legacy because they will be around long after I am. What about personal independence? I think one of the things that I saw in that Reddit post was a lot of people were saying, I want to be financially independent. I don't want to be dependent on anyone else, whether it's a partner or parents. Independence, how important is that to you? I think it's probably high up there for a lot of people, but I think it's important to be aware of that. Like, what does independence look like to you? And what type of independence do you need to feel or experience in order to feel fulfilled in life? And kind of going along with that, privacy. Like, what levels of privacy do you need in your life to feel fulfilled? And on the flip side of that, community. What kind of community and connections do you need to have in your life in order to fulfilled or feel like you're living a fulfilled life? Learning is also really important. So what things do you need to be learning to keep your brain happy and fulfilled? So I've been learning a lot about advertising for authors. I just signed up for an advertising for authors course. I've been reading some books about it. I've been reading books about writing your book descriptions. That is something I know. Copywriting, I need to learn more about. Next year, my Plant Spirit Healing Apprenticeship has an advanced version, which I will be participating in, and I'm really excited to learning that stuff. I'm also hoping to advance in my Druid training. As I said, that's also a learning experiential thing that I'm really looking forward to. So that's my learning stuff. So like, what kinds of stuff do you want to learn? What kinds of stuff do you need to learn to feel fulfilled in life? And it's not need to learn in terms of like practical stuff, but like what types of learning make you feel fulfilled? And what are your priorities in life? What things need to be prioritized so that you can feel fulfilled? And peace of mind. What does peace of mind look like to you? What things need to happen so that you can feel peace of mind? And how does that relate to your sense of fulfillment in life? What does your home need to be like, look like, feel like, sound like, so that you can feel fulfilled? We've been in our home now for 8 years, and it's too small for us. But it's also really convenient and comfortable, and we need more space, but it's still pretty good for so many reasons. So, it's been so good for so many reasons that we haven't really looked into moving out, but we will need to, and we will want to at some point. So what do we want instead of what we have now? Definitely more space. Definitely for me, something more rural. The convenience of living in town, but I also really, really want more nature around me. Every time I'm recording a podcast and I hear some car or something backing up on the street with its beep, 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 I don't want to have that. I don't want to hear that. They were cleaning the streets yesterday morning as I was working, and they had the leaf blower going, and it was just, I don't want to hear a leaf blower. So little things like that I would not have if I lived in a smaller, more rural location. Health. Like, what does a healthy life look like, feel like? What would your health need to look like, be like, feel like in order for you to feel fulfilled in life? So the healthy lifestyle could be like your food that you eat, the health problems that you have or don't have, what your body looks like, how it performs. What does your health need to look like, feel like, be like in order for you to feel fulfilled? Purpose, a sense of purpose. When we are doing purposeful things, when we are living our purpose, we often feel fulfilled. So what does that look like for you? Spirituality. This may or may not be important to you, but if it is, what does your spiritual lifestyle need to look like, be like, feel like, in order for you to feel fulfilled in a spiritual sense? So for me, this is working through my Druid training. This is having my ceremonies. This is going to the winter gathering, the summer gathering. This is spending time outdoors. This is walking the long distance trails. All of this stuff makes me feel spiritually fulfilled. And then there are the little things in life that I don't know, they probably don't even have any categories. What are the little things in life that you can do, be, have, experience that will make you feel fulfilled? So maybe it's getting up to see the sunrise. Maybe it's looking at the sunset. I don't know, having a cup of tea in your garden in the mornings. I don't know. What are the little things that you can do that will make your life feel fulfilled? So I hope these questions have been useful in terms of helping you get your vision of what a fulfilling life looks like to you. You might want to listen to this again and take notes. But the next question is, how can you get started towards this vision? So I would say take notes on all of your answers. And then go back and maybe leave spaces on the page as you're writing this down so that you can maybe go back with another color pen and write down, what do I need to do to take steps towards making this vision a reality? So for me, what are my things that I need to do? I need to book a workation weekend at least once a month so I can work on my books, because I have this really ambitious publishing schedule for next year. So this month, I've actually done 2 workations so far, and I've never done that before. I've never done 2 in 1 month, but I had the space in my weekends, and I had the time, and I had the money, and I wanted to get a head start on my schedule. So that's that. For my walks next year, I needed to book them into my calendar, first of all. And then for the first one in March, I needed to book the flights, and I've already done that. So for my black belt, I need to figure out whether I'm going to do that on the summer course or the winter course. I really want to do that on the summer course. Part of that is I need to fight in a tournament. So I've got that in my calendar as well in April. Not really looking forward to that, but it will be a learning experience and it will be a stretch outside of my comfort zone. So I've got that booked into the calendar. Can't book onto the tournament yet, so I will do that in January when it opens up. Other stuff. It's mostly just booking the time to write my books and booking time in my calendar to work on my Druid training and then actually doing all this stuff. So that's what I need to do. So that kind of thing, like go through your list of what a fulfilling life looks like to you and figure out the actions you need to take. So also, let's go back and look. So the learning stuff. I booked onto those 2 courses with the Woodcraft School next year that I'm really looking forward to. I had to find those courses and book onto them. I actually have an Evernote file of all the different courses and workshops and things that I want to take. And I've started putting links to them in there because I don't have enough time to do all the courses I want to do. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm really excited about. So I've booked what I have time for into next year's calendar. And then when we get ready for 2021, then I'll go through my list and see what I want to take the following year. So that could be really useful to you. And also if you don't have the money now, or if you don't have the time, use Evernote or use another system or file on your computer to drop links of all the stuff that you want to do, experience, hobbies. Like maybe there's gear that you need to buy for your hobbies. Create a file for that and then just start working towards the stuff, or see if you can buy the stuff used if you don't have the money, or borrow it. Oftentimes you can borrow stuff from people. And then just make lists of all the little steps that you can take to take you towards this vision. And then pick one thing that you can do today, the easiest thing, the littlest thing, the most exciting thing, whatever, and do that today. If it's late in the evening when you're listening to this, then something that you can do tomorrow. But take action today, and then keep taking action. Keep taking steps towards this vision of creating your fulfilling life. And then go to the link that I'm going to provide in the show notes of the original post that inspired this, and see what other people's answers were like. A lot of them were very general, but they will help you get ideas for yourself. So, as always, I hope you found this episode interesting and useful. Please drop me a line. Let me know what you thought of it. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or find me online and get in touch. I would also love for you to support me on Patreon. If you find this podcast interesting and useful, you can head over to patreon.com/hollyworton and join me there. It starts at just $1 a month, and you get exclusive access to content I don't share anywhere else. Depending on what tier you sign up at, you can also get free copies of all my ebooks. So it's patreon.com/hollyworton. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe if you haven't already. That will mean that you will get these episodes in whatever app that you use to listen to podcasts automatically. Next week's episode is a co-hosted episode with the fabulous Joanna Hennon. We talk about, I think this is really interesting. We ask the question, can you be addicted to healing and personal development? So we talk about why healing and spiritual stuff can sometimes be an escape from physical reality. We ask the question, is learning and growth really the goal of life, or can we have other reasons for being here? We explore the fact that personal development culture feeds into the idea that something's wrong with you when really there's not. We explore why personal growth satisfies our need for control. We also look at why healing can be a distraction from action. We also look at how to know when it's too much, when your personal growth is actually a problem. We ask the question, is there always something more to heal? We look at what to do when you've been peeling your onion layers, but the onion feels infinite. I have been there lately. We look at what to do if you don't feel like you've been addicted to healing, but maybe you want to consider whether or not you might be. We ask about what about all the people who have good lives and don't do any personal development at all? Like, how does that happen? We look at how personal development can sometimes be used as a crutch. We also ask the question, why is it a problem to be addicted to healing? Isn't healing good? And finally, we explore how to find the happy medium between addiction to personal development and doing nothing at all. So, I hope you tune in next week for that episode. That will be the last episode of the year. So, I hope you have a fantastic holiday season if you celebrate holidays this time of year. If not, enjoy the time off if you get time off. And have a great rest of the year. And remember to visit hollyworton.com/335 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollyworton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.